Hi, I'm Darrin Peppard. Welcome to the Leaning into Leadership podcast, the podcast dedicated to today's hardworking leader. Join me every Sunday for leadership insight, inspiration, and a little pep talk to keep you rolling down your road to awesome. Hey everybody, welcome into episode 119 of the Leaning into Leadership podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. Today, we're going to talk about being a leader of significance. You know, each one of us, when we step into a leadership role, we want to make a difference. We don't just step into the role to step into the role. And my guest on the show today, Mosongo Moukwa, is an absolute expert in this particular space. Mosongo is a really interesting individual who didn't necessarily set out to be a leader, but found himself called to lead. He's a seasoned executive and a consultant who has dedicated his career to helping companies thrive by commercializing new technologies, diversifying their product offerings, and entering new markets. Now, across this 30 plus years of leadership experience, he's applied these unique talents for identifying leadership gaps and developing talent and culture that's necessary for success. And this is a thing that I find so interesting when we talk about being a leader of significance. Mosongo is very much about demystifying human capital. How do we best leverage the people that we have? How do we best create a culture where people know that it's okay to take a risk and to take a chance? Mosongo and I had a great conversation here recently. You're going to really love this. He's going to talk about things like his leadership journey, about what happens when you are called to lead, when you're not necessarily looking for it, and one of my favorite parts of this episode is he's going to talk midway about really trusting your instincts and how there are times where you might get some pressure from others to make a decision to select a different employee when you know in your gut who the right person is. Mosongo is going to give you some advice on how you go about navigating that and just so much more. Folks, this is a great episode. Stick around. You're going to get it right after this. Have you ever found yourself in professional development thinking, how is this supposed to help me be a better leader? Folks, PD for Leaders needs to focus on leadership. Introducing High Performance Leadership Teams, a 2-day workshop from Road to Awesome. In this 2-day workshop, we focus on getting the team very clear on their shared values, direction, and mission. Getting to know the house and understanding the strengths that each of us bring to the table and how we best leverage those. We focus on how we go about getting the work done. We focus on team dynamics. And we focus on how it is that we continue to evolve together as a team. Hey, right now, it's a tough time to be a leader, and it's really difficult to grow together as a leadership team unless you're intentional. High Performance Leadership Teams is exactly that, an opportunity to be very intentional about your team. Hey, leaders, I want to work with your team. I want to help set you up for success. Send me an email at darrinmpeppard@roadtoawesome.net or shoot me a direct message on social media. Let's get your leadership team on the road to awesome with High Performance Leadership Teams.
Hello, middle-level educators. Are you looking for a nationwide type of conference at the fraction of the cost? The North Carolina Association for Middle-Level Education welcomes you to Charlotte, North Carolina, March 24th through the 26th for the 2024 NCMLE Inspire Conference. My name is David James, NCMLE Marketing and Conference Director, and I want to personally invite you to our annual conference. You will not want to miss our keynote and featured speakers that lead over 120 middle-specific teaching and learning sessions. Our featured speaker lineup includes EDU experts from across the country, such as principal and leadership expert Baruti Kafele, Charles Williams, LaQuanta Nelson, Zach Bowermaster, and the host of the Leaning into Leadership podcast, Dr. Darrin Peppard. The NCMLE Inspire Conference is for everyone. Go to ncmle.org to register your team for the 2024 NCMLE Inspire Conference today.
This podcast is a proud member of the Teach Better Podcast Network. Better today, better tomorrow, and the podcast to get you there. Explore more podcasts at www.teachbetterpodcastnetwork.com. Now let's get on to the episode.
I think every one of us, when we step into a leadership role, want to make an impact. I think every one of us, when we step into a leadership role, truly want to be significant in the lives of the people that we lead. Today on the show, I have Mosongo Moukwa, and he and I are going to talk about that. We're going to talk about his book, Be a Leader of Significance. We're going to talk about leadership gaps. We're going to talk about some practical things that each of us as leaders can do to ensure that we are doing just that and making an impact and being significant to those that we lead. So with that, Mosongo, welcome into Leaning into Leadership.
Hey, thank you, Darrin. Thank you for having me on your show. It's an honor.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's great to sit down and have another conversation with you. As most people who listen to the show know, I typically sit down and have a conversation with a guest prior to having them on, and you and I, of course, have done that and had a really good conversation. I'm excited to share your knowledge, your expertise with everybody today. Let's maybe lead in with a little bit about you, your background, and what you've done so much in the leadership space. So just whatever it is that you want to share.
Yes, I have 30 years in senior leadership positions in R&D and operation with global companies such as AC Johnson, Reichhold, Polyoan, which is Evian, Asian Paints. And these are companies in the chemical and the material industry. I've been fortunate to have been given assignments that put me in a position where my transformational leadership style was impactful, not only on the growth of the company, but also on the people. I'm currently a president at Attaway Advanced Materials. I'm also a leadership coach. And as you mentioned earlier, I've just written a book called Be a Leader of Significance. Now, my journey really, I came into this leadership, Darrin, by accident. So I just finished my PhD and taken a job with a specialty chemical company in Ohio. I was very excited to be part of the R&D division, and I was looking forward to developing new products, developing patents, and so on. But not long after I started, the head of the department called me in one-on-one meeting, and he told me, well, Mosongo would like to make you a manager. I've spoken to your peers. They all think that this role will be a good fit for you. Now, I never managed people before, and I was caught off guard by this sudden announcement. So I told him, well, I'm not really sure if I'm ready to do this. I've never managed people. He told me, don't worry, you'll be fine. So all of a sudden, I was a brand new manager with no management experience, and I have to figure out things out. So that's not something really I envision once I finish my research work at Northwestern University. So those days, this was in the early 90s. We did not have, like today, a number of those mentoring program, training, and so on. So luckily for me, a few people helped me fill in various gaps, but I was more or less on my own. So that's really the story there. So right away, I have to face a choice to do what other leaders around me were doing, or what I felt was best for the people I was leading and for the organization as a whole. I chose the latter, and I've never looked back. 1 year passed, 2 years passed, and so on. And along the way, I discovered a number of behaviors and actions a leader must take to operate at personal best. I've included some of those throughout my book, which I'll be able to share with your listeners.
That's excellent. A tremendous amount of experience. And the thing that I want to go at and talk a little bit deeper, have you talk a little bit deeper about, is that experience when you move from one with to, or one of to one with. In other words, going from being, in more of the worker space and then stepping into the management role like you did. You mentioned there that you really didn't have much, leadership experience, didn't necessarily see yourself, stepping into that role until they came to you. And also that you didn't really have, that mentoring program or coaching. Like you and I both, we coach leaders and we're able to support them in that early career work. And we'll talk about that more a little bit later. But what really stood out to me as you were talking was something that I think is very common in leadership across all spaces, whether it's an education space like mine, a business and chemical space like yours. People will be promoted because of the work they do, and then they move into roles where the skill set is not necessarily transferable from the previous role to the current role. Talk a little bit more about that experience for you. Obviously, you figured it out by maybe going a little bit different way than most of the leaders were doing within your company. But talk a little bit about that skill set that you step up to when you move to where you're leading people.
Yeah. First of all, leadership is really a journey. It's a journey of growth and a development. As for me, when I reflect on that particular experience, what really crystallized for me is that you grow by what crystallized for me, and hopefully for your listeners, that is the thought that growth and comfort, they don't coexist. So for you to grow, you have to be in somewhat of that comfortable position, and you might go through, and I did go through frustration, fear, and so on. But once I stepped out of that space, I was able to learn and discover myself. And I think, and when I look back at various changes I made in my career, each time I was put in a new situation, at the time very uncomfortable, but that also presented an opportunity for growth. So I think when we are making those changes in our career, that obviously we have to have some basic competencies, but certainly that growth mindset is going to be required.
Yeah, I think that's such a key piece right there, that the mindset of the leader has to be around growth. So often I think people step into leadership roles and either they think they need to know it all, or be highly proficient right away, or the people that they are leading, the people they're charged with leading, expect them to be perfect and only get better as they grow. So I appreciate that you talk about that.
Yeah. And if mindset. I may add,
it's huge. Go ahead.
If I may add, is that leadership is also about learning. It's about adapting and honing skills over time. It's obviously embracing the mindset that growth mindset, which opens up incredible opportunities for anyone to become a great leader.
So let's chase that just a little bit further. So you move into this management space, and then obviously over time you've continued to grow and advance into other positions. You're in a president position at this point in time. What were some of the things that you discovered about yourself, or that you learned about leadership as you've gone on this journey, as you've made the progression from your first management position to what you're doing now?
Yeah, this is actually a great question, because I think along the way, and that was actually one of those leadership crucibles. which helped me discover my own authenticity. So in my first job, I reported it to a manager who was what you would call today a very traditional manager. So he had very strong control over the department, on how project were distributed, who is going to lead what initiative. He certainly had his favorite, and did not really bother to be subtle about it. So if he wanted to have John in some position and to lead the project, then he will simply anoint them to do so, regardless of what the other manager or someone else, people had in mind. So towards that first year as a manager, our company launched an initiative to look at key new technologies, and those technologies were meant to come into my portfolio. So our VP was tasked. He tasked me with building a team from R&D group to lead the initiative. Because he knew that particular technology will be part of my portfolio. So at one of those weekly managers meeting, he asked me whether I've made my choice for who was going to lead the project. I could see that he has already written out on a piece of paper familiar names on his notepad. I replied to him, yes, I'm going to give it to a fellow called Jim. His face went red. He said, Jim, in a somewhat of disbelief voice. I looked around the group. The manager, they diverted their attention. They look at their papers or notebook and so on. And then there was a sense in the room that perhaps that was my death sentence there, because the head of the department was known to be holding grudges. So that was. But the meeting went as scheduled, and the VP said very little afterward. And one of the managers approached me after the meeting. He told me, you really need to think of what this fellow was saying. I told him, well, I appreciate they're all good candidates, but I really think that this fellow Jim is the right person to lead this particular project. So and then the VP also came to me and asked me to reconsider my choice, but I just could not come to that, because I knew this fellow Jim was the right person. He was a hardworking fellow, very detailed. That was the skills that this particular project was going to call on. So one thing I've discovered during that period is that how important it is to give other people chances, especially if they are advocating for themselves. Because this fellow Jim actually, he came to me asking if he could have wanted the opportunity to lead, and it turned out that I chose it. So he understood the protocol of our company, and he was aware that the VP did not see much in him, but he was confident in his ability, and most of all, trusted that I shared that confidence. So was I really staking my career on Jim? Success? Well, that really it turned out that at the end of the day, Jim was very successful in that venture, and later on actually became a go-to person for some of those some of those technologies. But that experience was not just important for him, but it was also for me, because it became a type of fuel for me, if you will, that I relied upon at different time in my career. So I was true to myself. I was not operating based on obligation and expectations of others. So that's something that I carried out throughout my career, being somewhat independent, and then to be held accountable if I fail.
We will return to the Leaning into Leadership podcast in just a moment. But first, let me ask you a question. Have you ever said to yourself, man, I should write a book? Well, if you have, then let me ask you another question. What's holding you back? What keeps you from taking the step that moves you from, I have an idea about a book, to I am a published author? From experience, I would bet it's probably you're wondering who would even want to read a book that I wrote. Maybe you're questioning the idea. Is it unique enough? Is it valid enough? Is it good enough to be a book worthy of having published? Hey, as a best-selling author myself, I can tell you most writers have had the exact same feelings at some point in time during their writing journey. Here at Road to Awesome, we believe in cultivating leaders by elevating voices and promoting positivity. And a part of that work is publishing books for educators by educators. Go to roadtoawesome.net and hit the Contact Us button to set up a free, no-obligation conversation about your book idea. Hey, educators, we've all had incredible experiences. We all have amazing stories, and every one of them deserves to be told. Go to roadtoawesome.net, hit the Contact Us button. Let's have that conversation about your book idea. And now, back to the Leaning into Leadership podcast. Two really important things there that you said, and I appreciate that you share that particular story. Working in reverse order. Number one is staying true to yourself. And, if you have conviction, if you believe in something, follow through with it. And then number two, a huge piece that I think, and I know this is a theme that kind of runs through your book, and that is, giving other people the opportunity to grow, to learn, to lead, and, sticking to the belief that in this case, Jim was the right person for the project. And obviously it paid off. We probably wouldn't be having this conversation if Jim hadn't, really followed through in an effective manner. But definitely, being true to who you are and believing in other people, giving them the opportunity to, I think you talk about it is really releasing their creativity or owning their creativity. Two really important pieces. And that takes me to the book. I want to make sure we touch on the book, Be a Leader of Significance. And I know that you and I've talked about this, and I know the way the book is set up at the end of each chapter, there's kind of like some practical practices that people can utilize or to reflect on their own leadership. Talk a little bit about first just the concept of writing your book. What was it that ignited you to say, hey, I want to write a book? I'm always thrilled and fascinated. I know why I wrote my first book. I'm just always curious what the journey was, because just like leadership, writing a book is a journey. So I'm curious about that journey, and then maybe talk a little bit about the structure of the book.
Yeah, the book came to me. It's somewhat of a reflection. My book. It's a reflection on behavior and action, and you see, Darrin, over the years, when I met managers that I had the fortune to work with, when we meet, we never talk about the products that we have developed. We never talk about how much revenue those products generated, but we talk about the experience that some of them or some of us went through while developing those activities. So those are the things that they remember. So today you're not going to excite people by putting a goal that our goal is to double the share price. Nobody's going to get excited about that. But if you put something more inspiring, innovation and so on, then people get inspired. But then by doing so, if you can create those moments of significance that they could remember and even seeking to relive it again, then that is even more powerful. So I find that at the end of the day, the goal was not really to get increase in revenue and so on. Those came as an outcome of that transformation that individual experienced during the process. So that's what I wanted to share in the book. So the aim of the book really was to advocate for that impactful leadership in everyday moment. It was also to inspire people to seize on those leadership opportunity, create those moments of significance. So I've developed over the years some principles, some ideas to help executives to sharpen their own leadership capabilities. So in the book, I'm giving relating a number of stories from my leadership journey across companies, across continents. So that is chapter by chapter. At the end of each chapter, I put some reflection and some recommendation or suggestion, if you will, for people. Perhaps once they go back to the office, they can employ. So that's how I came to the book. Yeah.
I love that.
Sure.
I obviously, having written a couple books myself and working with authors on a pretty regular basis, what you just said, I think is one of the most important pieces to writing a book. And I think this is something that a lot of people, when they have the desire to write a book, maybe they stumble on or that they struggle with. In thinking that, in both of our cases, leadership books, it's not about having this magic formula for leadership. It's about telling your stories, sharing the experiences that you have had, that others have had as a result of the work. And I love that you talk about, you said it multiple times, I love that you talk about that it wasn't about increasing revenue or, increasing a stock price. In education for us, it can't be about a test score or a set of test scores. It is about the experience. It's about the process and about the work that we do that leads to those outcomes of higher stock prices or better test scores. I think that's fantastic. Go ahead and run with that a little bit.
I agree. Actually, there are very simple things that the leaders can do, because there are a number of junctions during the day where we come across other people. It could be coffee shop, at the coffee machine. Sorry, it could be a one-on-one meeting. It could be in some gathering and so on. So you can set the tone. People can already begin to set the tone of those various conversations. For example, you can come and say, "How are you doing?" and then you walk. So meaning, well, I'm greeting you, but really, I don't have time to spend much time. So we have to become aware of that. But whereas if you really ask a question, what would you like to do this month? What are the bright spots on your team? Tell me more about your activity last week. Any surprises there? Then you begin to have that conversation. I had there was one vice president of human resources who worked with me many years ago. He told me something that still resonates in my mind. He said that when you're having conversation with people, people have to come away from the conversation energized. So I came to realize actually it's in the tone of that conversation. It's in the way we're putting those questions. You need to have the other individual to be somewhat often a reflective mode, not to be in a kind of judgmental. You meet somebody asking, "What do you do for a living?" Well, I mean, you can phrase it different. You could, for example, ask, "What brought you to Chapel Hill? What brought you to Nebraska?" Then you open up now the different types of conversation. So those are some of the things that I think people can do. For the other one is that for the leader, for them to be visible. Nobody is going to trust somebody who is invisible. So don't lock yourself up in your office because you're busy. You have 100 email and the door closed. That means you don't want to be approachable. You need to obviously to connect to people, which I mentioned, and because at the end of the day, Darrin, what people are looking for, they are looking for a sense of belonging. I remember one scientist who worked with me early in my career. This fellow was enjoying great chemistry. I mean, you could once you mention synthesis, you can see his eyes, twinkling and so on. And then I asked him one day by the coffee machine. I said, "What is it about this place that you like?" And I was expecting that he would tell me, "Oh, great projects. We're going to develop these good products and so on and so on." No, what he told me, say, what I like in this place is that during lunchtime, I can go and play ping pong. I can meet Mark, I can meet John, and we can exchange ideas and so on. So, so really, what they told me that is really the notion of belonging to a group that really gave him room to be himself. Just being part of that group and playing ping pong and so on. The other one that people look for is obviously psychological safety. I remember here one employee who was she was in marketing, and then she got transferred into my group, and she was telling me that when she first started a role in marketing, the manager there was all excited, giving her lots of compliments and so forth. But then as time went by, she began to hear those rumors that perhaps her performance was not at par and so on. But the manager never really told her. She began to realize that she was no longer invited in some of the meetings and so on. And then I asked her actually, I told her, say, why did you not go and confront the manager? At least ask the question. And what she told me is that she did not feel safe in that particular group to even go and ask that question. So you have that psychological safety. And she also added is that she began to feel invisible in that group. So that psychological safety there. So as leader, we need to create that space. In fact, it is known that when a group is higher in psychological safety, it's likely that they'll be more innovative. They will do high quality work. Teams will admit their mistake readily, and it gives space to have difficult conversation, and also it allows people to learn, and it's conducive to that learning environment. And the final thing I would add, Darren, is that people look to be valued. Now there are many ways people can be valued, but I think there are some very simple things where people can feel valued. I remember one manager who told me that was many years ago, perhaps 15 years ago, and it still resonates in my head. He said that as I was passing in the corridor, I saw him and I told him, I said, "Hey Joe, I've not forgotten you. I just made that comment." And then, and in truth, I did not forget him. I was aware that I did not spend much time with him. But he told me that that comment made him feel valued. He could realize that I could see him, that I was present in his mind. So those are some of the things that I think as manager we can do. They're very simple things to do, and like a way of introducing someone. You can introduce someone in some of a dismissive way, because you are in a rush. But you can take and then say some good word to the person that you're introducing, whether it's at a conference or at a company gathering and so on. So those are some of the things, I think, that we can do as managers.
Just absolute leadership gold right there. Love everything that you just said. It reinforces a belief that I have in leadership that everyone wants to feel seen, heard, valued, and trusted. Yeah. And that's what I heard you say repeatedly in there without using those exact words. That's exactly where you were. So leaders, take this away from what Mosongo is saying. Your work is about creating the environment where that can happen. That is a huge piece of what you do each and every day. So let's go ahead and transition really quick, Mosongo, to the last question that I ask everybody here on the Leading Into Leadership podcast. We could continue to chase this for hours. I'm absolutely loving and valuing this conversation. But for time's sake, we'll go ahead and bounce forward. It's the Leaning Into Leadership podcast. So Mosongo, how are you leaning into leadership right now?
Well, I have passion for reading. I'm curious by nature, so I read on a wide range of subjects. I particularly like reading a non-fiction book. That's certainly something that I do, and I also publish. So I read a lot, and also I share my insight at an interview or article for publication. Years ago, I gave an interview with Human Capital. Another interview with Professor Wanda Curlee on American Public University. We're talking about neuroscience, project management. Some in Journal of Creative Behavior, and so on. And I have a number of posts on LinkedIn. One was creativity, what managers can learn from jazz musicians. So just sharing with people some of my thoughts. Another one was why business leaders need to understand neuroscience. So I shared those things there to also seek feedback, interact with people. And what I've traditionally do is that with the team of my direct report, I like taking one particular article. It could be related to leadership or something of that sort. Give it to them. So and then request to them after a week to come and then we will discuss that particular article and see whether it's relevant with our team or there are some good ideas there that perhaps can inspire us. So these are some of the things that I do, because I sincerely believe in a lifelong learning. I mean, learning doesn't end when we finish school, actually, because that learning is more of extrinsic, whereas that life learning is intrinsic. So you're no longer at the mercy of the quote unquote expert. Education really is something that you yourself you have taken upon. It allows you to understand the world around you, to understand topics, to bring your own understanding. So this is what I do, Darrin.
I love it. So how do people get in touch with you? How do they find you? How do they connect with you?
Yes, I can be found on LinkedIn. So Mosongo Moukwa on LinkedIn. I'm there. They can also check my website, mosongomoukwa.com. So they could get there. And if they sign up, they could have a free copy of a chapter of the book. So those are areas. My book is called "Be a Leader of Significance." It's on Amazon, so they could find it there as well.
Excellent. I will make sure that we connect or drop hyperlinks in the show notes, folks, for Mosongo's LinkedIn, his website, and of course to go and grab a copy of his book. Mosongo, thank you so much for joining me here on Leaning Into Leadership.
No, the pleasure has been mine, Darrin. I appreciate the conversation. I'll be interested in hearing what some of your listeners' feedback, and this conversation continues. And thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Oh my, just some total leadership gold there from Mosongo Moukwa. I really appreciate him coming on the show and sharing such incredible insights. Folks, it just goes back to what I say so frequently here on the show, that great leadership is great leadership, and it doesn't matter where it is that leadership comes from. We can learn from leaders in all different walks of life because, again, great leadership is great leadership. And now it's time for a pep talk. So as I sit here recording, I'm looking out the window and we are absolutely getting drilled by a snowstorm. The bomb cyclone snowstorm has settled in over eastern Nebraska, and it is incredible how much snow and wind we're starting to see. The really amazing thing to me is we're so good now with weather forecasting that we knew pretty well in advance, probably almost a week in advance, that this storm was coming. And really, we got some good warning about what to do to prepare. So we had been to the grocery store. We had all of our supplies stocked up. We'd, made sure that we did not have to leave. We could batten down the hatches and we could weather this storm. But it made me think a lot about leadership. And it made me think a lot about the challenges, the storms, if you will, that we face as leaders throughout the course of our leadership journey. Some of those storms are ones we know are coming. We see them coming a mile away and we're prepared for them. We've done the right work to be ready when the storm comes to handle that situation. But oftentimes as leaders, the storms that hit us are the ones that we really did not know were on their way. And all of a sudden, here we are, and we have to weather a storm that maybe we were or weren't prepared for. You see, to me, the great leaders are the ones who find a way to be prepared for almost any storm that can come their way. And they know that even when the storm gets really challenging, that they're going to need to rise to the top. They're going to be the ones who get out in front and lead from that area. Great leaders lead from 3 different positions. Lead from the front, lead from the middle, lead from the back. I talked about it in my book, Road to Awesome, The Journey of a Leader. It's when we're weathering the storm that we really need to be leading from the front. So take that for what it's worth, folks. We're all going to weather storms. The challenge as leaders is how well do we prepare for the storms we know are coming and for the storms we're not too sure about? And then what do we do to lead through those different situations? Take it for what it's worth. If there's anything I can do to help you, by all means, reach out to me here at Road to Awesome. Thanks for enjoying the Leaning Into Leadership podcast. Thank you for listening to the Leaning Into Leadership podcast, brought to you by Road to Awesome. Don't forget, click subscribe, give a review, and share this with somebody who might also enjoy leaning into leadership.